Diane here again, and it is day 6 of the 30 Days, 30 Authors Challenge. Today I'm supposed to talk about my brand, right? So what's meant by that? Well, basically it's kind of how you present yourself as a writer and what people are going to be getting by buying your books. Like, okay, for example, Stephen King's brand is that of a horror writer. And he writes a lot of other things, but he's primarily presented that way. This has changed in recent years as he's gained more of a reputation as a literary writer, and as more of his work has been used in classes about writing. But in the beginning, it was very much that sort of horror thing, and it can be very difficult for a writer to break out of whatever genre image they've been pigeonholed into. So one has to be kind of careful about how one presents oneself as a writer. Now, it's also kind of a bit about who you are, right? Stephen King is also known for having a pretty whacked out sense of humor and an appreciation of classic rock. Hello, thanks for joining me. Yeah, so that's also part of his brand. James Patterson, he's known for being primarily a thriller writer. Again, that's not all he does. As a matter of fact, he writes some very well-received young adult fiction, but this is how his brand is presented. And he himself, hi Courtney, yeah, he himself is kind of I don't know, he's direct. He used to work in advertising. I'm taking a course run by him online, and he's very down to earth, and that's part of his brand. So, now the personality stuff, I can't do anything about, right? I mean, who am I as a person? Well, part of what we're doing here is introducing that, right? Showing you who I am as a person. So, you'll get to see that just as the month goes on. But part of it's also, what are we interested in? What do we support? What are we about? So I think that primarily what I'm known for, other than being being a writer and whatnot, is that I'm a nerd and I'm a witch, right? Now, being a witch, right, this is part of how I became a writer. I've written pagan nonfiction. I do pagan blogging. I'm really kind of out there in that community, and under that, I'm known as Sable Erodia. And we'll be discussing that later on, because that's... Oh, my connection is weak, so I can't spend too long doing this. Alright. So, okay, so I'll do this quickly then. As a nerd, I'm into a lot of nerdy things. So I thought it might be fun to introduce you to my, I have this little collection of pop culture stuffies. This is by no means all of them, but it is some, and I will show you here in just a second. I'm kind of waiting for okay, there we go. Right, so this guy here, this is my Wind Rider from World of Warcraft. Yes, crack. And he is our RV guardian, which is why I am in the RV for this. And up here, this is my vintage 1980s plush My Little Pony. I bought some recently for my kids as well, but unfortunately they chose to make them with yarn hair. They didn't make them with this comby hair stuff like they used to make them when I was a little girl. So they're a little bit different, but I've had her since then. This is my Cabbage Patch doll. Her name is Bertha. And isn't she cute? I just think she's so cute. This is my Beanie Baby Dragon. That's my vintage Pac-Man Stuffy. And these are my 2 vintage E.T. dolls. This guy was the original, but he's got very hard parts and kind of an awkward, shifty neck. So they said, we need something for smaller kids too. So they made this guy. This guy, though, he's kind of top heavy. He falls over. So that's my nerd plushie collection. Now, hopefully I've still got connection, and I'm going to go closer to the house, because otherwise you're not going to be able to catch me, because I'm kind of on the edge of my router's pickup here. Alright. So then, now that I'm closer to the house, this gives me a chance to talk about the fact that I am going to be at the Penti-Con this weekend. It is a Comic-Con style event for the Okanagan and pop culture. I'm going to be doing a couple of workshops on tabletop role-playing games, which I'm a big fan of. That's one of my big hobbies. I hope you guys are still hearing me. I cannot tell if I am still online or not. Yeah, so that's part of who I am. As a writer, I write speculative fiction, which is, it used to be the term that literary writers used who wrote science fiction and fantasy, who didn't want to be associated with science fiction and fantasy because people regarded that as pulp fiction, and they were above that. You can tell what my opinion of that is, right? Yeah. Okay, so, but now it's generally used for catch-all for most science fiction, fantasy, horror, dystopia. Things that are not contemporary or historical reality, things that might be possible or probably never will be. So I write a lot of that sort of thing, and so I guess that goes pretty well with me being kind of a nerd. A lot of my ideas are inspired by role-playing games. Role-playing game novels have a bad reputation in a lot of circles. You cannot get people to even look at them in some cases because they're like, oh, serious writers don't write that stuff, but you're wrong, and I will prove it to you. So, I guess that's all I have to say about my brand today. I guess I'll talk more about the whole paganism thing when I do my stuff on my pen name. I've been a pagan for a long time. I've always been very mystically inclined. I did not find, hey, AC, cool, glad you made it, and that also tells me I'm actually still online, which is good. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I don't know. I was always interested in faith and in mysticism and in things that were a greater spiritual kind of thing, right? And I went to a lot of my friends' churches. It just didn't ring true to me. I checked out Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam and the Baha'i faith. And they all have lots of things, all of them, including Christianity, have a lot of things to recommend them. But there's elements of all of them that I just wasn't quite settled in. But paganism fit me. I'm very much sort of a find the sacred in the world around me type. And I believe that there's a lot of things that we can't quite explain yet. And I think that we need to give them more thought. Now, does this mean that my paradigm is any better than yours? I don't think so. I'm very much a many paths to the top of the mountain kind of person. I don't think I have the one true faith, and I think that anybody who claims they do is a liar or they're delusional. So, what do I think of Buddhism? I have a lot of respect for Buddhism, actually. I was this close to being a Buddhist. Very much, I believe in the Eightfold Way. I believe in the practice of meditation. I totally understand the process of releasing attachments, and I think that's a great idea. Where I disagreed with Buddhism was that I personally believe that we should find the sacred in the world around us and not try to transcend it. But I don't think there's anything wrong with Buddhism at all, and I actually have done some serious work in that department. I've had the opportunity to do some serious meditation exercises in the Tibetan Buddhism tradition. When I owned a metaphysical store, there was a traveling Buddhist Lama of all things in the world who would come and do workshops at my store. So I've done a lot of that, and I think it's very cool. So yes, I have a lot of respect for Buddhism, and I consider Buddhists to be kind of a natural ally. So, yeah. Oh, I guess that's it for today. And thank you guys for joining me. And I will see you again tomorrow with a different topic. Bye.